I've got an announcement. I'm starting a PSL team. Welcome everybody to Overthinking GM FC. You see, I just so happen to have won a 10, come into some money, and I'm going to put 250 million rand into my dream of owning a PSL club. Okay, it's not like real money, but it can help us explore how much it actually costs to own a PSL team. You see, we've lost teams like Bloemfontein Celtic, Mpumalanga Black Aces, Bidvest Wits, and more recently, Morocco Swallows. And it all seems to come down to the same issue, a lack of money. And while we fans always complain that these teams need to do better, do we actually understand how much it would cost to run a football team? And this is what we're going to do today. Okay, let's put 250 million on the board. First things first, we have to decide where we want to play. In South Africa, you are allowed to do something called buying a status. That means a team's right to be in a specific league. You've got two options. You can either buy the team outright and not have to build everything out, or you can buy the status and move your own team into that space. That is what I'm going to be doing. So how much do these statuses cost? Now, if we're looking at the NFD, the National First Division, buying a status in the First Division will cost you around 6 to 8 million if you're taking a mid-table to lower table team in that league. If you want to move up to, let's say, a promotional playoff team, that will cost you between 10 and 15 million rand. I mean, it looks good, and that would be the financially sound thing to do. But the NFD is notoriously hard to win and get out of. And a lack of proper exposure makes it hard to bring in additional money through things like sponsorships. And also, who wants to be stuck in an NFD? We've got 250 million rand. Let's go straight to the big time. We're going straight to the PSL. Now, the PSL is way more glamorous, but far more expensive. In 2020, Bidvest Wits became Chakuma Tsamanzivandila, TTM, and they paid 42 million rand to acquire those rights. Most recently, Morocco Swallows' the status went on sale, and it became Marumo Gallants for a price of 45 million rand. So it's safe to say that we're going to be spending around 50 million for that status. That hurt. That really hurt. Next up is location. Where is our team going to be based? So you may think this is a stupid question. You may think that anywhere in South Africa is good for a team, and maybe you want to go into a remote area and build something from there. But there's a couple of issues where location becomes very important. If you look at travel and accommodation, you have to transport 25 members of staff everywhere around the country to go play their games. That's 15 league away games, and let's say around 20 if you include cup games. And if you're a team like, let's say, Chippa United, all the way in the Eastern Cape, who's very far from every single other team, that could cost you around 160,000 rand per away game. And if you times that by 20 games, you have a really scary number. I'm not going to do my maths. I'm just going to let this keep up with it. Whereas if you're in Gauteng and 4 rival teams will be in the province, while 3 more are a bus ride away, the costs go down dramatically for the year. So Gauteng it is. I'll get back to another reason why location is very important later in the video. So now we know where we're going to be based, but where are we going to train? And what stadium are we going to play our games in? So it costs about 200 to 350,000 rand per game to rent out a stadium. And this is like a moderate stadium, like let's say Toyota Stadium in the Free State. We are definitely not doing F&B. A training ground, on the other hand, comes up to around 15,000 rand a month to be available for the team's needs. I think we're going to go for a nice-ish stadium that will cost us around 300,000 rand per game. Add that to the bill. So we've got our location down, we've got a stadium, and we've got a training ground. What are the players going to wear? Now, normally you'd get a technical sponsor for these needs. Somebody who will come in and clothe your entire team. First team, second team, women's team, DDC, and your youth teams. And in return, they get to sell the kit out in the open market and maybe get some money from it. But what they don't tell you is that a lot of teams don't have an outright technical sponsor. A lot of them come into deals with these sponsors where maybe they pay 50% of the costs, but they still would be buying it from the company. And since we are starting out with our team, I don't think we have enough currently to convince a sponsor to come in and give us a kit for free. But maybe we do have enough to get 50% off, and that is what we're going to go to kit out the entire team and technical staff. By the way, this is why some of the kits are not available that easily outside. If I don't think you're going to sell, I'm not going to mass produce these things. Hopefully in the next 5 years, Overthinking GMFC can grow to a place where we can even convince them to give us money on top or a percentage share of the sales. So as you can see, we've been bleeding money. So let's talk a little bit about opportunities to make some cash so we can balance the books and not have everything come out of our own pockets. I'm going to ignore things like match day revenue because in the country, the ticket prices are really low and there's no team that can consistently make enough for it to dent that budget. We're going to start off with sponsorships. So sponsorships work like this. It's either you're getting money straight into your pocket or somebody comes in who can take some of the burden off of you by maybe providing some of those services as part of a deal with them. For example, earlier on, I spoke about how location is a very important thing. What can help with location is partnering with a municipality. There's plenty of municipalities that will actually pay you or provide stadiums for free, for example, for you to come and host your team there. They're looking out for things like tourism, foot traffic, or maybe just getting the name and branding of that municipality out into the world. Examples of this are Royal AM, who signed a deal with their municipality that gives them 27 million rand for 3 years. Chippa United has a similar deal with Buffalo City, who's allegedly giving them 33 million rand for them to call that city home. And that's 11 million off of the budget. Now, again, we have chosen Gauteng, which means that it's a little bit harder to find a municipality that has a stadium that is up to par, and it's also in a province that doesn't lack for any foot traffic, tourism, or any action when it comes to sports. So I don't think we'll be getting one of those deals. But as you can see, our team is really good at social media. So I've convinced a sleeve sponsor and a shirt sponsor to come in and give us a little bit of money each year. So that's a little bit of a relief. So everybody knows that the PSL is on TV. How does that translate into money for the teams? The coolest thing that the PSL does for the teams in the league is that they give them a monthly grant as their share of the TV money, which is one of the few times in the world where this happens. Usually, the bigger teams who draw the most eyes would get the most money. Our league has made it so everybody gets the same amount of money and there's no disparity between the teams. And I'm gonna say it helps quite a bit. Quite a bit. Okay, so now we need to talk about the big expense. The real money eater. Salaries and wages. Swallows owner David Mkhashwa came out to say that he's spending 4.2 million rand every month just on player salaries. That averages out to about 140,000 rand per player per month. Then you still have to account for your technical staff. You still have to account for the people that actually run the team in admin. So there's so much money that has to go. Altogether, on the low end, this could cost you up to 72 million rand for you to just make sure that you're paying people. And this is where a lot of the teams stumble. That over there is how much the main things to run a team would cost every single year. Luckily for us, thanks to the PSL, we've been able to balance our books quite a bit. And it kind of lines up with the things that have been said by owners in the PSL. And all of that is besides some of the heavy transfer fees that some of the teams are paying to bring on players. This is why a lot of the teams will wait for players to become free agents. A lot of the teams will wait for contracts to be terminated so that they can step in for players. So I'm going to add around 15 million for us to just make sure that we're getting some okay signings in through the door. Now we know how much the basic things to run a team may cost. I don't know about you guys, but I'm starting to have a little bit more sympathy for some of these owners, even though I still believe that this is your job. This is what you sign up for. This is what you know. You know that tickets are not going to sell. You know your jersey's probably not going to sell. And you know that sponsors are really hard to come up on. And there's a lot of other issues that come out throughout the season that could dent whatever budgeting you have done for that year. As we look at it right now, I think I'd be okay for 4 seasons before I'd probably need to sell as well. And a lot of our teams are in a race for sustainability. Yes, you can be a really rich owner, but losing up to 40 million rand a year out of your own pocket in order to make these teams run, and that is if you have other bases covered, is a very tough task to do. So kudos to the owners that are doing it within the league, but also, this is not an excuse. You knew this thing going in, you understood these costs going in, and we can't feel that sorry for you knowing that you knew all of this and you just had to get a team in. If I ever come into that type of money, best believe that I'm going to be in the league as quickly as possible. But for now, we can only dream. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Please don't forget to subscribe.